This is Kari and Summer with the Say My Name podcast that gives a voice to women's stories. It's my story, it's your story, it's our stories of pain and healing.
Betrayal doesn't begin to describe the knife that I pull out of my side. So I'ma put the past behind me, 'cause I got strength inside me, and a strength that I wanna share with you.
All right, welcome to the Say My Name podcast, episode 14.
Yes.
Today we are going to go back in time and we're going to look at part of Kari's story that was one of the most impactful things that happened to her and, in her words, shaped her life and her relationships as she knows them today. So we're going to go back to when you lost your baby, your firstborn. So please tell us a little bit about that and around that.
Yeah, I was 19 years old and I got pregnant with my husband that I had for 14 years. And I was Mormon, so it was a really big deal to get pregnant. I was not married at the time.
Okay.
And so going to my parents was actually really, really scary because I genuinely thought they were going to disown me when I told them that I was pregnant, because they didn't like my, soon to be husband. We were planning on getting married once we found out that I was pregnant, and they didn't like him. They eventually did, because he's a really nice guy. Mm-hmm. But at that time hated him and did not want me to marry him. And then on top of it, he gets me pregnant. It's like the worst just situation to be in, and thinking I might never be around my family ever again. They might just say, you're out. You're not going to be a part of our family anymore. Mm. So going to my parents was just nerve-wracking. I brought Clay with me, and they were thinking we were coming there to tell them we're getting married whether you want us to or not, because they had already told us, no, you can't. And they had no idea that we were going to come tell them that I was pregnant. So that just really kind of blew them a little bit over, but my parents actually handled it really well for how devastating it was for them to have a daughter pregnant out of wedlock. And they told me, we support you and we love you and we will take care of you and this baby, and kind of left Clay out of it a little bit. But you know what? And just thinking now as a mother of a daughter that's 18, which I have a different perspective on it all, I can see kind of that feeling of protectiveness of their daughter, especially because they didn't have fond feelings towards him. But they accepted him into the family, and all of that ended up being fine. So pregnant at 19, everything looked fine. I was going to the doctor and I found out my blood was Rh negative. So that just means that I'm O negative. It means that I don't have the Rh factor in my blood. So most people who are positive, obviously they have the Rh in them. That's why they're A positive, O positive. So I just didn't have that in my blood. No big deal. What they end up doing is they give you a RhoGAM shot I'm guessing, I never ended up getting it, but I think it's right before you have the baby and then right after. Just to tard your antibodies, because your body, because it's negative, it doesn't have the RhoGAM or it doesn't have the Rh in the blood. Your body doesn't recognize the positive, so it starts attacking, your blood starts attacking it, because, does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Because it's a foreign object in your body. So if your baby happens to have positive blood, it's not a good thing. It's fine for you. Nothing really affects you except for your blood starts attacking the baby's blood. So they do this to prevent that from happening. They give this RhoGAM shot towards the end of your pregnancy. So they told me that at the beginning of my pregnancy, and they just made it such like not a big deal that I didn't really think about it until I think I was about 5 or 6 months pregnant. So he would be 21. So it's been quite a while. So the memories are a little bit kind of fuzzy. I think I was about 6 months pregnant, and I went in to go get a routine checkup, and then he was going to check. He was going to give me the shot for the RhoGAM shot, and they had drawn my blood the last time I had gone in there just to kind of check where my stats were or whatever. So I wasn't going to bring my ex-husband with me, husband at the time. I wasn't going to bring him with me. But then for some reason, he took off work and came with me. And thank God, because it was such a horrible experience. I went in thinking I was just going to get this routine shot. And the doctor came in, hadn't looked at my chart until he came into the room, opened it up, and said, "Oh my God, you have antibodies." And being just completely naive, not having researched anything because they made it such like a poo-poo, no big deal thing, I didn't know what that meant. Like, that's good, right? I don't know. Like, antibodies? I don't know what you're saying. You're speaking foreign language. He's like, "No, that's bad. That means your body is attacking your baby right now." And I just instantly started panicking. I started getting contractions. Everything just started my heart was going out of control. And he's like, "Hold on, let me go get something real quick." He walks out of the room, grabs this huge book, opens it up, and starts reading all the things that could happen to my baby. So he has no idea what to do. I mean, it was the worst bedside manner ever. And of course the books are going to say like the worst possible scenarios, like your baby's going to die. And so then my contractions started getting worse. And so then he hooked me up to all of the stuff to like see where my contractions were, which freaked me out because once again, I'm just this naive 19-year-old that has no idea anything. So I'm thinking this is crazy. Like, he's putting me up to this machine and it's like, all these lines are going off and they got me to calm down, to get the contractions to kind of settle down. And he told me the next day I was going to have to go get an amniocentesis. And of course I didn't know what that was. And he told me, it's very painful. It's really risky. It's risky for you. It's risky for the baby. And so, once again, just freaking out, just thinking, oh my God, how is this even happening to me?
So rewind. What does it mean when you have antibodies, and why did that happen if it was supposed to be no big deal? And what was the amniocentesis going to tell you?
Okay, so the antibodies is basically what they're seeing is that my body is attacking something. So my blood was attacking my baby and trying to abort it, basically, because it saw my baby as a foreign object. At some point in my pregnancy, his blood and my blood mixed.
Do they know how that happened?
Well, I'm trying to think of, not at that time, they didn't know, but basically they just kind of came to a conclusion because really the only way that can happen is if you've been pregnant before or if you've had some trauma to your belly, like a car accident or fell down the stairs, something where you've had traumatic trauma to the baby and your belly. And I hadn't had any of that. So what the conclusion that they came to is that I was pretty much like 0.00000% chance of
0.0001.
Yeah, zero. no percentage.
Zero chance.
Zero chance, but I had that chance. 0.0001% of me having a back bleed with the pregnancy. So that means, normally the uterus has this protective layer between your blood and the baby's blood. So your blood during pregnancy doesn't mix with the baby's. It can happen during delivery, but it should not happen during pregnancy. I didn't have that layer apparently. My blood and the baby's blood mixed throughout the pregnancy. So fine if you have positive blood, no big deal. But because I had negative blood and Ammon's happened to be positive, when his blood mixed with mine, my body saw it as something foreign. Mm-hmm. So it basically started attacking his blood, trying to get rid of him, get him out of my body. And I'm not feeling anything. There's nothing that happens to me. I don't feel any pain. I don't feel sick or anything. So it was just actually just agonizing to me. I felt like if my body's doing something to him, I wish that something bad was happening to me. Mm-hmm. So that's what the antibodies were. The reason why they wanted to do the amniocentesis is because they wanted to see how anemic he was, because my blood was attacking his blood, which was making his blood really weak. And so they wanted, exactly. So they wanted to see how bad he was, because if it was to a certain level, they were going to have to take him. And they needed to know kind of where he was at. If his lungs were matured, they can find out all that kind of stuff from the amniocentesis. They don't like doing them because it's very dangerous for the baby. And it's super fucking painful. It's not a comfortable thing to do, but they do not like doing them unless it's absolutely necessary. So the next day I go to get an amniocentesis done. And it's basically this freaking huge old long needle. I tried not looking at it because I was so freaked out. I just wanted to get it done. So they had an ultrasound up. So I just looked at him so I could just see him there and not look at what they were doing. So they stuck the needle in, and it basically goes in through all of your layers into your belly so that they can extract the amniotic fluid. But the problem is that they pricked my uterus they pricked Ammon, that's my baby. They pricked his foot and he jerked and then it poked into my uterus. It's very dangerous for them to put the needle in and then take it back out and then put it back in. There's just lots of risk for infection, I think. So they were still able to extract the fluid, so they didn't take it back out, even though it was stuck into my uterine wall. It was excruciatingly painful. I couldn't exhale. I could only inhale, and they have it in there for a while because they need to extract quite a bit of amniotic fluid. And oh my God, it was just so horrible I felt like it was like an hour long that they were trying to, pull that amniotic fluid out. So they got the test results back. His lungs were not mature. So it would not have been good to take him out. And he was extremely anemic. So that was bad news. So they basically, the only option was to give him a blood transfusion while he was inside of me. And that just doesn't happen. So luckily, I think that I don't know if there was another hospital, but for sure, Phoenix Children was one of the only hospitals that they actually performed that surgery in. And so thank God that's where I lived, or else I was going to have to fly somewhere to get it done. So I was so thankful for that. So basically what they do for the blood transfusion, they give it to the baby while they're inside the womb. Just super crazy. And so I go to the hospital for that. I don't know how many days after it was, but it was very quickly. They were acting really fast. You knew that it was very urgent with how quickly they were making everything happen. So we go to the hospital. They literally strap down my arms, and they've got me in a hospital gown. And bear in mind, I'm Mormon and really, really modest. Showing my body was something that was not comfortable for me, especially being that there was literally, the room was full of doctors that had flown in from all over the country, possibly world, but full of doctors wanting to watch the surgery because it doesn't happen. And so this was such a great opportunity for them to be able to watch this surgery. So all these doctors, all these nurses all around me with my arm strapped, and the nurse just lifts up my garment, and I'm just completely naked, dying, so embarrassed, oh my gosh, so embarrassed. So, but I honestly, at that point, it was like, oh well, okay, y'all get to see my goods. And so once again, they had Ammon on the ultrasound. So they had to numb me because they actually had the needles in for quite a while. So I didn't feel any pain with that one, but I just kept my eye on him and just seeing him move and knowing, okay, he's alive right now. It's okay. Mm-hmm. My baby's alive. I'm just going to look at him. I'm just going to connect with him. And they stick the needle in and they stick it into the umbilical cord. And they transfuse blood into his umbilical cord to give him some fresher, healthier blood, just to keep him so that he could stay in my belly just a little bit longer. And then they gave him some steroids as well to help move along his lung development to be able to get him out quickly. So he was born 5 weeks early. They induced a labor once they found out. They did another amniocentesis, found out that his lungs were mature. So then it was go time. So then I went into an induced labor, and my mom was in the room, my ex was in the room, and I couldn't handle the pain. It was actually excruciatingly painful, and I hadn't done any kind of breathing class. I was just this naive 19-year-old and also not prepared to have the baby yet. I thought I was going to have at least another month and a half left. So couldn't handle the pain. It's also more painful to do a induced, yeah. Mm-hmm. So had epidural, didn't really work. Like I think it took the edge off, but basically just numbed my legs, which was really scary to me. My mom had to hold one leg and my ex had to hold the other leg, and was able to birth him vaginally. And he was fine. He was healthy, cried, and he was actually, I wish I could remember how, I think he was like 5'13". Like he actually was a pretty good sized baby for being early. So we were just excited. We were anticipating him going to the NICU right away, and that he wasn't going to be super healthy. So, but he wouldn't nurse. He just kept kind of falling asleep. So they put him in just kind of this little nursery. It wasn't the full on NICU, and he just wasn't. He wasn't bad, but he just was not where they wanted him to be. So then they ended up taking him to the NICU. And I didn't understand. We had this doctor, which we ended up finding out she was actually just an intern. Thank you. She was just an intern. That she's the one that would actually come and talk to us and give us information and updates with him. But she would tell us, she'd give us the rundown of what was going on with him, and that they're thinking of possibly giving him a blood transfusion, but we're holding off on that. And we kept on asking, why won't you give it to him? Just give him a blood transfusion. And she wouldn't give us an answer. Or if we asked any questions that were needed a little bit more information on it, she would tell us that they have a library. Go downstairs and you can study that in the library. That's above my training. And I had no voice. So I didn't say anything. Like, no, bitch, you go downstairs and you study, and then you come back and you tell me. I didn't. And my ex didn't say anything either. So we just stopped asking her questions. Every time she would come, she'd give us a little update of how he was doing. And then she'd ask, do you have any questions? Nope. So he just he wasn't bad, but he wasn't getting better. And finally, this was, I don't even know what day it was, because it just all kind of ran together. They finally did give him a blood transfusion. And after that, he went completely downhill super fast.
So was he days old or weeks old at that point?
He lived for 7 days, almost to the hour. Okay. So he was born on March 5th.
Just a few days old when they gave him the blood transfusion.
Yeah, he was born on March 5th and passed away on the 12th. So, there's a certain smell to the NICU. And for a long time, I couldn't go into hospitals because there was just the smell just instantly took me back to that memory. And I knew like the exact course, like to get to his incubator. And I knew his incubator number was 11. Like I didn't like number 11 for a long time. It's crazy how it kind of comes back. But basically from the day that I had him, and I want to back it up. So when I was in the hospital after I had him, they had him in the little nursery. And so he was not with me. So I'm in my bed when I should have a baby with me. And they have me sharing a room with another mother. And there's just a sheet, like a little curtain to cover us. And so I don't see her, but I know she's in there and she's with her baby. And it was just heartbreaking. And then to make it worse, she asked her husband or, whoever was with her, her partner, to watch the baby so she could go out and smoke a cigarette. And I was so angry. I wanted to just take her and I wanted to punch her so hard but I was so angry, not really at her. I was more angry at God now thinking back on it. Like, why? I did everything. I was so healthy. I did everything right. And then my baby's the one that's sick. And this lady is smoking a fucking cigarette the whole pregnancy. I guarantee you the whole entire time. And her baby gets to be with her and her baby's healthy and fine. I was so angry, but not really realizing it at that time. That's I was angry at her.
It felt so unfair.
Yeah, it felt really unfair. And so my ex had to go back to work very quickly. He only had, I think, maybe a day or two off of work. So I had to, basically what our routine was we would wake up in the morning. We only had one car, so I would take my ex to work, and then I would drive to the hospital, and then I'd stay with Ammon, and his incubator was really high up. So you couldn't sit on a regular chair if I wanted to be with him. I had to sit on a stool. And I wanted to see him. I wanted to be able to touch him and see him and talk to him. So I sat on a stool for however many hours till I had to go get my ex. And the only time I left him is when I needed to go pump my milk because I wanted to nurse him. So I go pump my milk, and I had like packaged crackers that I would like eat while I was pumping. Never went down to the lunchroom. Like I just didn't want to be away from him. And it was so painful. I just had a baby and I'm sitting on this wooden stool for hours, but I didn't even feel the pain. My body wasn't even something I was thinking about. So I would go, then when my ex got out of work, I would go pick him up, and then we'd go back to the hospital until, the hours were done, that visiting hours were done. And then we would leave and we'd go home and we'd pray and, please, 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 God, please, save my baby. Next time I go in, please let it be that he's doing better. And we'd call in the middle of the night and ask how he was doing. They would either say that he was stable or that he's not doing so good. And it was just like, oh my God, when are we going to get some good news here? And so he lived 7 days. So on day 6, I took my ex to work. And I sat in the car as he walked into his office. And I remember just breaking down and just saying okay, Heavenly Father, I can't do this anymore. This is so hard. I cannot go another day. You have to give me some kind of hope or take him. I can't do this anymore. And up until that point, I had constantly been praying, save my baby, get him better, make him better, make him better. And I absolutely believe, without a doubt in my mind, that basically Ammon was waiting until I gave that permission. Because he just kept going downhill that whole day. And the doctors took us into their room, into a special room that night, and told us, your son is passing away, and we don't know why, but I don't think he's going to make it through the night. And I knew that when I said goodbye to him tonight, this is going to be the last time I see him. And I went up to him, and at this point he didn't even look like himself. He was so jaundiced, so yellow, and so swollen from all the connectors that was in his brain. Connectors is from just extreme jaundice, and he didn't look like a normal baby. And I don't think he was even there anymore at that point. But I just remember just holding his face and holding his hands and telling him, I love you. And go back to heaven. It was so hard. And I just remember thinking, this doesn't happen to me. This stuff happens to someone else. It just felt so surreal. And we went home, and the next morning, we got a call saying, you need to come down soon, now. And we had called them and told them, and they were on their way down, and they were at the hospital when we got there, and we walked in, and he had already passed. And I already knew it. I knew that night before was the last time I was going to see him alive. So we had no idea why. We didn't know. Why did he pass away? And what's crazy is that when I would sit on that stool and he would grab onto my finger, and I would just have him holding my finger, and he would squeeze it. And I remember thinking, oh, this is so sweet. He's squeezing my finger. Well, what we ended up finding out after he passed away is he was actually having seizures after seizures after seizures. And then when they told us that with his autopsy result, I was thinking, oh my God, that's what he was doing. He was seizing every single time he squeezed my finger. And I realized at that point, what a blessing, because who knows how much brain trauma and injury that all of that seizing was doing to this tiny little baby, and that he could have been a vegetable his whole entire life, or just had some type of extreme learning disability. Like, I don't know. But so we went in for the autopsy result, and
Was it crazy to think about someone doing an autopsy on your baby?
I don't know. I didn't really think about that. I just wanted answers. So I desperately wanted to know what happened. And so when we went in for the autopsy result, the doctor told us that he had actually died from a yeast infection that had taken over his entire body. And so, of course, we want to know, how did he get a yeast infection? And he said, you gave it to him. And my heart just like broke into a million pieces. Oh my God, I killed my baby. And it just felt just so horrible. And I just thought, like, oh my God, I'm never going to be able to have a child. Like, I'll kill all my babies. And I'm thinking, how? I don't understand. I've never had a yeast infection in my life. He said, well, pregnant women carry a lot of yeast, and you gave it to them. And it just, oh my God. So I actually carried that pain for a couple of months of thinking that.
What did you do? I mean, how did you wake up every day and function?
Horrible. I literally felt like my body is just this horrible baby killer. And especially being in the religion that I was in, it's such a huge pressure to multiply and replenish and have lots of babies. And so I'm thinking, I can't even do the one thing that I'm supposed to do in this life, and that is to have babies. Like, I'm kill them. And but it just didn't settle right. And so, of course, I went to a different OBGYN because that one was horrible that I had gone to. He had no idea how to handle me. And
any woman.
He was just, I don't even remember his name, but he was horrible. And so then we had researched, and we found somebody that had just a lot of good reviews and people that had recommended him. And I can't even remember his name right now. Yeah, amazing. So we went to him, and we were telling him the situation because he wanted to know, like, because we wanted to try to have another baby, even though I was scared shitless to have another one. And he wanted to know what happened because he's going to be having to deal with this possibly if we have another baby. And he's like, that just doesn't feel right. That doesn't feel right. Would you be willing to, you guys will have to go get all of his records because I can't go get them. But would you be willing to go get all of his records, because they'll have them all at the hospital, and then release them to me? And I'll take it to one of my friends who is a NICU doctor at another hospital and have him look at them. Because once again, he just wanted to know what he was getting into. And he's like, this just doesn't feel right. So he takes it to that doctor, and he ends up telling me, so this doctor has actually taken it to a board of doctors, and they're all researching this for you. And I'm just feeling like so completely supported. And I felt like, oh my God, this is so amazing. Like, somebody's going to give me possibly a little bit deeper of an answer. And so that doctor, completely free of charge, comes to my doctor's office, that NICU doctor, and comes in to tell me and my ex what they found with this board of doctors that he had taken it to.
How long did that take?
I don't know. I can't remember. It was just a matter of him putting it in front of the. No. I think maybe like a week or two.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, no, it was actually really quick. It was just a matter of him taking it to a board of doctors, and like they all just kind of discuss it really quickly. They just look at all the stats. So he said, so looking this over with my opinion and the other doctors, that is that he actually died from the blood transfusion that he was given. And I said, oh my God, like, why wouldn't they tell me that? And because of when he went downhill, they said it's very clear that he went downhill after the blood transfusion. And they wouldn't tell you that because they're afraid of getting sued. He's all, but the thing is that I want to say is if I was that doctor, I wouldn't have told you it was your fault, but I would have done the same thing for your baby. They didn't do anything wrong. The reason why they delayed the blood transfusion is because of the risk of infection. So they were delaying it because of what ended up happening, and that was the yeast infection. But that doctor saved those doctors millions of dollars, because if he wouldn't have said those words that he would have done the same thing, we would have sued them. But just that piece of, oh my God, it wasn't me, was priceless. There was him telling me those words took so much. It felt like physical weight off of my shoulders and so much responsibility off of my shoulders of my baby's death.
What did you do in that moment?
I'm sure I sobbed. Because I was researching, how do I get yeast out of my body? I was trying to figure out what kind of diet should I do. I didn't know what I needed to do with my body. And I just, fuck you to that doctor for putting it on me. Shame on him. That is so not cool. But, doctors are sued all the time. So I can see his fear, but that was so not cool. And that doctor I never even saw that doctor. That doctor was never even a part of my baby's. I think he was just somebody that was reading the report. Mm. And he kept saying baby boy. He has a name. It's called Ammon. He was just kind of like a case number. So yeah, that's, so we ended up getting pregnant Emma's about 2 years apart, or maybe 3 years. Yeah, 3 years. No, two, because she's going to be 19 and he would be 21. No, that's 3.
Wait,
what is that?
21. That's 2.
Yeah, 2 years apart. So I can do math. Emma's going to be 19, so they're 2 years apart. And it was so scary to get pregnant again, because I wasn't worried about the yeast. I felt so completely at peace that was the truth. That's why I know I was so unsettled when that doctor, besides the fact that just feeling shitty that I had killed my baby. But I didn't worry about that happening, but I was worried about my baby's being Rh positive again. Mm-hmm. And then here we go again. Mm-hmm. So for the first 5 months of my pregnancy, until they can do an amniocentesis, we don't know if the baby's sick or healthy. And so it was just agonizing those first 5 months of my pregnancy, just wondering, oh my God, am I going to relive the whole experience with Ammon again? And all 3 of my other babies were Rh negative.
Wow.
And the odds of that, we had a 25% chance. And the only reason why we had 25% chance is because my ex actually had positive negative blood. So we actually have 2. We either have negative, positive, or positive negative. And he luckily had positive negative. So because he had that, we had a 25% chance. So, and the odds of having all 3 of them, I'm like, I'm done. This is amazing. I felt so incredibly lucky and blessed and just in awe.
So with each of your pregnancies, there was a fear, I'm sure.
Oh, every single one of them. And each one of them, I thought, okay, it's going to happen in this one. What's the odds of having another negative baby? Mm. So yeah, it was really scary, but my pregnancies were totally healthy and great and fine, besides having to have C-sections because they were breech. But I'll take a C-section in a heartbeat over what I had to go through with Ammon.
So you had amniocentesis every pregnancy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah. I was so used to being pricked over and over and over and over again. They had to do so much blood work on me all the time that it got to this point where it was just all right, go for it. It didn't even faze me anymore at that point. I just was used to it. I knew during my pregnancies I was going to be basically a test dummy.
So what did you feel toward God when all of this was happening? Did you try to repent for what you thought was killing your baby? Did you feel apart from that night that you spent next to the woman who was smoking a cigarette or needed to go out to do that, did you feel like this is unfair, or did you feel like God has a plan, or what were you thinking?
You know, I remember being at Ammon's funeral, or not his funeral. I remember being at his, I was at his funeral. I remember being at his graveside, and I think I was either trying to get pregnant or I was pregnant. And I remember talking to him and telling him, Ammon, will you please make sure that this baby is safe, or that my next baby is able to live? I don't want to talk to God about it because I'm mad about him taking you from me. So I'm only going to talk to you about it. I remember having that. So I clearly had some hard feelings about it. But I remember thinking, I can't ask God because he took Ammon. So I'm going to ask Ammon. He'll bring me a baby.
Right. So I can't trust God.
Yeah. And, I mean, in the religion that I was in, they have a very clear idea of like what happens after someone passes away. And that is that, especially babies, anybody under the age of 8 is basically goes to the celestial kingdom. You get like a go free to heaven card. And so that was actually brought me a lot of peace, because they're known as like celestial babies. They're not gone. They're still here. So just knowing that he's not gone. I didn't lose him. He's going to now be my guardian angel. He's going to be there. And I feel him. I know he's in my life. So, and I still do believe that. Not necessarily all of the stuff that the religion believes, but I do believe that we just transition. We don't leave anywhere. We just can't see them with our eyes anymore. They're just not in a body anymore. So that brought me a lot of peace, just knowing he's not gone forever. I do still have him. But that was when at his funeral, it felt so surreal being there, and just, I felt like I should be crying more. I couldn't, at that point, I just couldn't cry anymore. I had cried so much over the last week that I just couldn't cry anymore. And I felt like, almost like I needed to, for people to feel
okay about it.
Yeah, okay about it. Like, why? Or I'm just wondering, why isn't she crying? But I honestly feel like I was totally comforted. I believed that Ammon was with me, and that I knew that it was going to be okay. I was going to be okay. He's okay. He's so much better. He's not in any pain anymore. But watching my husband and my dad and my brothers just carry this tiny little this little casket was just heartbreaking, and just thinking, oh my God, that's my baby. And once again, everything, it just kept going through my head. I can't believe this happened to me. This doesn't happen to me. This kind of stuff does not happen to me. And up until that time, I really had a super easy cake life. Now I've had quite a bit of craziness happen. Now it's like, of course that's happening. But also just thinking, okay, but this is happening for me. I don't expect bad things to happen to me, but I definitely have just a different view on when something possibly tragic happens in my life. It's like, okay, this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out. So another little cool thing is that when I was pregnant with Ammon, I was going to this school called Sweha, and I was going there for massage therapy school. And at that time I was Mormon, and so I was super against doing any of the like woo-woo stuff, any of the spiritual Reiki, or I didn't even look into those classes. I only took stuff for massage therapy, and graduated. He actually passed away. Oh, this is cool too. I got to tell this story there at the school. So he actually passed away while I was still in school. So I took about a month off. And then when I went back to school to finish it, obviously he had passed away. I walk into this classroom and nobody in there knew me, didn't know that I had just lost a baby. There's this guy in there and he reads eyes. He reads your eyes. Like he has this like magnifying glass that he puts on and he looks into your eye. And he was saying that what it looks like a tree ring. So our eye actually is a map of your life and experiences that have happened to you. So just like a tree, if it's had a drought, you're going to see its tree ring look different. If it's been like hit, if like extreme wind, fire, all of that's going to show in the tree ring. So I thought, oh, that's really cool. Will you read my eye? So he puts the magnifying glass up to my eye and looks in and literally puts it down within seconds. He's like, oh my God, you've just had a loss. And I just obviously start bawling. I'm like, wow, that is so crazy that our body literally like has marks in it of our traumas that we've experienced. And now with some of the schooling that I've done, it's also in our hands and our feet, in our ears. Like our body is like this constant, basically journal of everything that's happened to us. It was so fascinating to me. So yeah, I went to Sweeha when I was pregnant with him. Didn't take any of the woo-woo type classes. And when I moved back here from Arizona or from California, I felt this pull to learn how to do Reiki, which is an energy modality. And I was thinking maybe I should go back to Sweeha, which is here in Arizona, the school that I had gone to for massage therapy, and finally decided to go back. And during one of my Reiki attunements, the facilitator, the shaman, said that when he was talking to me, there was actually a man that was standing next to him. And he didn't know who he was and didn't say anything to me about it until after the fact we were talking. And I happened to talk about how I had lost a baby. And he instantly said, oh my God, that's who was standing next to me. And it hit me, wow, I really believe that Ammon brought me back to the school. And here I am back at this school and I'm not carrying him anymore. But I feel like he's with me while I'm going here. And he guided me back because I didn't finish. Like there was more that I was supposed to learn at that school. So that school just holds a special space in my heart because that's where I was when I was with him. And now I'm back there again. And I believe that he's with me, guiding me in the different classes that I'm taking and my spiritual evolution. And so yeah, it's just really, really cool to just see the parts of my life that I feel like he's kind of guiding me and with me.
That's so incredibly beautiful and so touching. And thank you for opening up and sharing that.
Yeah.
I have no words.
It says a lot because we like talking.
I know.
Yeah.
I am just in awe of the growth that you've had and the journey that you've had and the healing. And even when you were going through that, you were knowing that he was with you and that it wasn't the end.
Yeah.
And you had some peace knowing that he would always be with you and be by your side, and you continue to feel that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And on his birthday, rather than feeling all sad, because there was one year that it hit me hard. I think it was his 16th birthday. Because when there was like just some, and obviously this one's 21, but I don't feel that it's going to be super, super hard for me. But man, his 16th birthday was so hard for me. It really took me down. I went into a pretty deep depression just during the time of when he lived and then passed away. And I just realized in the next year, I'm like, you know what? I don't want to have the same type of experience when his birthday comes around. And so I chose to, on his 17th birthday, to now change his birthday to something more beautiful. So however old he's going to be, I buy that many flowers. So he was 17. I bought 17 roses. And then throughout that day, I gave the roses to people that I love. And then I tell them why I love them. And that this is in honor of Ammon. And it's just such a beautiful day. Like it turns a day that is supposed to be really sad for me into such a beautiful day. And everybody sends me pictures of their flower, like, in their kitchen or in their bathroom, like in a little vase, and just like that it brings them happiness and it just makes them feel so good. And I love that tradition. It's just so much fun. And every year I get to give away even more roses or whatever flowers I choose. And that's just so much better than sitting and crying and feeling sad for a loss, because once again, he's not gone. It's just me, my human form, missing being able to experience him in this life. So yeah, that's really cool. A really fun like tradition that I started.
How is your kids' relationship with the memory of him or the idea of him?
Emma is really, really connected to him. Emma's my oldest, and she actually got a tattoo. Her first tattoo is of a willow tree, which is a really cool story too. So, and it's on her wrist, and we call it the Ammon tree. So when he passed away, obviously lots of people gave us flowers, and we buried him in Prescott, where my parents live. And so we didn't want to take all the flowers. So the flowers we left with my parents at their house. And my mom calls me up and she says, Kari, it's so crazy. One of the bouquets had some curly willow tree like sticks in it. And when I was taking it apart, they had actually started rooting or growing. And so my mom has the ultimate green thumb. Like she literally can touch anything and it grows. So she's like, I think I'm going to try to grow it. I'm going to see if I can get a tree out of it. And she did. Humongous, huge willow tree.
What?
Beautiful willow tree. And so my parents put that in their backyard and they live there. They actually just moved away this last summer. So I took pictures of the willow tree, which actually I should put that as the picture on this. But every time we went to her house, there's this beautiful willow tree that we call it the Ammon tree. And so because now my parents don't live there, Emma put the willow tree on her wrist. And it looks just like the tree. It's really cool. So yeah, that was crazy. And my mom like took a bunch of sticks off and like started getting them, like they started rooting, because of course she can make anything grow. And she had given them to me to plant at my house that I had in Mesa, and fucking like killed them in seconds. Like, Mom, I think the tree's just supposed to be with you.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really cool. So, but Emma has always felt this connection with Ammon. Whenever his birthday comes around, I mean, she wasn't even alive when he was before her, but she just has this connection with him and just loves him. And she says she has 3 brothers, and just always feels a little bit somber when his birthday comes around. So, but the boys don't really, they don't really talk about him or really say anything. I mean, when on his birthday, we usually do like a birthday cake or something like that for Ammon. We do like sing happy birthday to him, and the boys like that because they get cake.
Of course.
But yeah, Emma's the one that feels the most connected to him.
Those are such beautiful stories.
Yeah.
My heart is full. So much love and respect and just love for you and for Ammon. And I'm so glad that he's here with you.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
I love you.
I love you too.
My heart is full. I have no words. That was such a beautiful story. Thank you.
Yeah, I was happy to share it. It's a very tender, beautiful story that I treasure. It also, once again, just feels like it's somebody else's story that I just happen to know intimately. And the thing that I would, just people who have had loved ones pass away, it's a very touchy thing. It's challenging to know the right words to say to them. So I guess the thing that I would say if you're trying to find the words to say to somebody that has lost someone, whether it's a baby or a parent or a grandma or whatever, don't say, especially if they're, older, oh, well, they lived a whole life. No, that doesn't make them feel better. Or, well, they're in a better place. No, that doesn't make them feel better either. Just say things like, my heart hurts for you. Is there anything I can do for you? I have no idea what your loss feels like. Even if you have lost your parent, even if you have lost a child as well. No, you don't. You do not know what their loss feels like. Every person's loss is unique. So just, I can't even imagine what you feel. What can I do for you? How can I be there for you? How can I help you? That's the important thing to say, I think.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Because it is so hard to know, because we want so much for people to feel better. And so we search our brains for anything that we think might make them feel better.
Yeah.
And
It's better to
sometimes-
just not say anything.
Yeah.
Because there are
Just to
people
offer
are
love.
it's tender. It's a very tender moment, and people are very, very sensitive. You can say the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're not quite sure what to say, just don't say anything. Just love them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anything else you'd like to add? You've said everything. I don't even
Yeah,
have any
that's it.
questions.
We're good. We did it. It's the story.
It is a beautiful story. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful and amazing, and I'm so blessed to get to hear it.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share it. Okay.
We're over and out.
Yeah.